the storyline. So you're effectively being rewarded for how you interpret the story, which is pretty interesting because it means that you're not only learning from what the authors wanted you to learn through the lines of text, but also through the choices you make. The great thing is you can start a chapter over anytime for free, and that means you can increase your score and do a better chance each time, right? Because otherwise, if you just decide to do what you want and you make a serious character do some stupid stuff, you might end up killing the character and then you can't progress with the story. So you can start the chapter again. Now, the downside to this one, and the author and the company in general, actually, and I've noticed this is a theme with all the games that these guys have made, and I've played several of them before, is that it's free-ish.
Okay.
One, there's ads, and two, if you don't get max score, so no, that's a bad way of putting it. Every time you get scored for a chapter, you earn an amount of luck, and luck is a currency that you use to unlock the next chapter. So if you do really poorly, you need to spend the same amount of luck, but you might have earned less. So you need to play the chapters again and again to get the right storyline, to get enough luck to continue. And even then, you won't actually get through the whole game if you don't watch some ads as well to increase your amount of luck currency. Now, you can also purchase the full game for £4.50, which removes all the ads, etc. And I do enjoy the game, and I was tempted, but I feel like £4.50 for me personally is a bit steep for something that'll maybe give me an hour and a half of enjoyment on my phone. So I'm actually just continuing to turn on an ad, do something, turn on an ad, go do something, and earn luck that way, as well as replaying the chapters. But it's still enjoyable. I do also recommend it if you have the willpower to do the ad stuff. Or if you're ridiculously rich and willing to do that.
You just pay for it and get into it all. Gotcha.
Yeah. And the next thing I want to talk about is Fortnite. But I
yes, tell us more about Fortnite, Ken, your one game to go to these days.
Yes, okay. Okay, so Fortnite is a lot of fun. I've got a couple of articles open that I want to talk about during the Geekoscope as well. But oh my god, so I have like 20 recordings on my PlayStation stored there, because every time I get into the top 10 in a game, so for those who don't know, Fortnite is a battle royale-esque game where there's three main game modes of solo, duo, or squad, which is 4 people in a team, and you're against there's 100 people in the game. So if you're doing solo, you're against 99 people. If you're doing duo, you're against 98. If you're doing squad, you're against 96, right? And it's an incredibly fun game. Huge open map. Where basically the map gets smaller and smaller over time because a storm comes in. And if you're stuck in the storm, you take damage. So you need to move in towards the circle, right? Okay. So I've been playing this game quite a lot recently, and I've decided that whenever I'm in the last 10 men standing, right? So if I have survived that long, regardless of the game type, I will double tap what used to be the select button on PlayStation, which is now the share button, which activates recording, quick record. Right? So you don't need to leave the game. I love that feature, by the way. It's great. And I start recording because I want to record when I actually win a game, right? I want to be able to show people that I won a game. I've won one game so far, by the way. I won it in squads with the help of Graham. But I really want to win a game either solo, where I earn it myself, or at least in duos as well, so that I can try and get one win across the board, right, in each game mode. That would really make me happy. However, I must have about 20 to 25 recordings of me in the top 10 and then dying in stupid ways. Every single freaking time. So the worst one this week, oh man, I went to duos with a random guy, and I decided to keep my microphone in as well, because I thought, you know what, if I'm doing duos, I want to be able to communicate with a person and actually work as a team. Now, I found that over like 10 games that I played this week, 9 of the people I spoke to didn't respond, and I didn't even know if they could hear me half the time, because they might not all, like, I might say something like, oh, there's a guy to our east, and they just don't respond. So I'm like, oh crap, they muted me. Like,
Gotcha.
what do I do? I just start shooting, I guess. But only once this week did I have a guy who actually communicated with me. Now, he only said a couple things like, okay, and like, all right, and that was it, and that was fine. I was like, totally great. I'm happy to
At least you're there.
Yeah, at least you're there, and I know you're listening. So I do a lot of narration. I say, like, okay, I've got this stuff. I'm here. We should head this way. Like, I'm putting a marker on the map as well, so you know where we're going. I do a lot of planning and communication, because I think if it's any kind of team-based game where it's fast reactions, you need to have good communication skills and quick communication. I think it's really important to actually do well. And so me and this guy do really well. We get into the final 4 people, right? So it's me and him versus 2 others on a team. circle's quite small, maybe like 25 meters by 25 meters or something.
Okay.
And so there's this tower on a hill, and we're down at the bottom of this hill looking up. And we've got loads of ammo and stuff, so we're just blasting it with rockets and just taking it down. And the guys are running around like crap, like headless chickens.
Okay.
We've got a few kills each, so I feel pretty confident. I'm like, okay, we got a lot of stuff. I'm like building a little base for us while trying to shoot them at the same time. I don't see them for like maybe 10 seconds, and I assume they're still there. We still keep shooting rockets, but then these guys are next to us suddenly. They must have snuck down the side or something.
Oh, no.
We didn't. And I was like, oh crap, it's fine, we're okay. So I turn around. I pull out my rocket launcher. I know I just reloaded it, so I pull it out. The guy is standing at the bottom of the staircase that I just built, and my teammate's right next to me. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna blast him, and then that's it. We win the game because they're both together. One rocket blast will do it, and that's the game. I'm gonna finally win it. I'm recording it. This is gonna be great. I'm gonna win the game with a freaking rocket. It's gonna be so cool. I shoot. I fire. The rocket's flying through the air. It's like 3 centimeters ahead of my face from the gun at this point, and my teammate builds a wall directly in front of us, and I blow up both of us with this rocket to the face, and we both just fall over and die.
Oh no!
To be fair, he had like no health, so he fell from the fall that he didn't actually die from the rocket, right? You can't do friendly damage, but the fall damage knocked him off, and so we both died. And then, of course, the enemy team starts doing their mocking dance with, like, you can make, there's like an emote where you can put a loser sign on your face and do a stupid dance, and they both start doing this. And I'm just like, I hate this game. I hate this game. I hate this game. I suck. So it was a lot of fun, in a sort of self-loathing kind of way. But I honestly, it must have been about 15 games this week. I came in the top 10. Recorded only to die in a way similar to that.
That sounds like you should be working on a compilation video of all of your attempts.
That sounds like a good idea, actually. It might be humorous to do so. But that's been my Week in Geek. So shall we go have a quick break and then
yes,
return to viewers?
It is time for us to take a break, and so we will, I would say, pay some bills, but we really haven't been advertising because we haven't been using our normal things. Other than I will say, hey, if you're chatting with us on one of the other channels and want to jump into the main chat where everyone can see you and we record it for the show itself, jump into IRC via irc.quakenet.irc.org. Or is it the other way around? It's irc.quakenet.org. With whatever tool you'd like to use that, or you can go to the website vtwproduction.com, click the chat button at the top, and just give yourself a name, click on the chat link, and you can jump in that way as well from a web browser if you don't have an IRC client installed. But come in, join us, talk to us that way. We'd love to hear from you during the show, as well as we get ready to take this break. If you'd like to contribute to the show and let us know what you've been doing that's been geeky this week, please email in at showx@vtwproductions.com. We would like to hear from you. But with that, we are going to take a break and we're going to listen to some Leo, because Leo does amazing songs. And after that, we'll come back and we'll get into some more of the geek cred that both Aqua and I have on our side. So with that, you're listening to ShowX on vtwproductions.com, and we'll be back right after this.
Send in your emails to showx@vtwproductions.com.
There's a fire starting in my heart, reaching a fever pitch, it's bringing me out the dark. Finally, I can see you crystal clear. Go ahead and sell me out, and I'll lay your shit bare. See how I leave you with every piece of you. Don't underestimate the things that I will do. There's a fire starting in my heart, reaching a fever pitch, and it's bringing me out the dark. The scars of your love remind me of us. They keep me thinking that we almost had it all. The scars of your love, they leave me breathless. I can't help feeling we could have had it all. Rolling in the deep, you had my heart inside of your hand, and you played it to the beat. Baby, I have no story to be told, but I heard one of you, and I'm gonna make you blessings to find what you look for. Turn my sorrow into treasure gold. You'll pay me back in kind and reap just what you sow. We could have had it all. Could have had it all. It all, it all, it all. We could have had it all. Rolling in the deep. You had my heart inside of your hand, and you played it to the beat. We could have had it all. Rolling in the deep. You had my heart inside of your hand, but you played it, you played it, you played it, you played it to the beat.
You're listening to Show X on BTWProductions.com.
All right, so that lived. So
Did
we're
you
good.
expect a blue screen after that?
Whenever I stop and start audio cables, that is a possibilities. And so that's often when I've had my computer crash in the middle of the show and then come back. It's because I'm stopping and starting virtual audio cables, and all of a sudden
That's not happened in
something
a long
will break.
time. Maybe it was Sam related.
I think Sam didn't help, but I still have it happen on occasion. I just have gotten very good at recovering from it. And so hopefully, little time has passed for the viewer on the other side. So we'll see. So hopefully, excuse me, as I die. You all enjoyed that from Leo. As he said, he always has good music. Sorry about the initial piece. I switched up the music, but from when I hit play, it still had the Peep song in there from Molly Lewis from last week, so it started playing that
Can
one.
I just ask, by the way? I love Molly and everything, but I don't
Yes.
get that song. I just don't get it. Why is that a song?
Why is Peeps a song? The Peep fight? Just because of around Easter stuff, everybody who tends to eat and love and for whatever reason enjoy those weird marshmallow concoctions that are Peeps.
Yikes.
The little bird-like shaped marshmallows. I don't understand it. I think Peeps are disgusting. But a lot of people
I've
done
never
things
heard
like
of them
put-
before, and this is the first I heard of them. I had no idea what it was referencing or anything.
Oh, yeah,
Just-
no, it's a
just
little-
was
if you
a
look
weird
up-
shouty song.
If you look up Peeps on the internet, it just like if you need to look up Peeps marshmallow, and you'll see these little glittery covered little. I don't know what
bizarre.
you want to call them. They're terrible. But what people will eat around, I guess, sometimes the around Easter and such when they come out and are popular as being a pastel, I guess, dessert
Yikes.
or treat. I don't know. I'm not a fan. And one of the fun things is you can, yeah, they are. In my opinion, they really are. But you can put them in the microwave, like the song says, and they start to explode as marshmallows will.
Yes.
And become odd-shaped, odd-looking
But
things.
why is it like the most like discordant, screamy, sad song ever? I don't understand why. I just
For
don't, I still
why
don't quite
she
get it.
sings it the way she does, I don't know, other than to be like, loud about something that's ridiculous. It's something we would probably, if we ever try to get her back on, ask specifically. It's like, all right, so what came up with the sound of Peep song that you decided on?
Yeah.
That would be interesting.
What's
But yeah,
with
no.
that?
Yeah. What were you trying to accomplish?
Is she still doing stuff? I don't know if I've heard anything in a long
She
while.
does.
from her.
She hasn't had like new album type stuff, but I follow her on Twitter and I still see concerts and things she does and just little things that she has going on. So
That's good.
still does. But I don't know if I've seen a full album for a bit, since I don't know if she still only has the one. Anyhow, welcome back to the show, everybody. Time for Akodai to talk a little bit about our geek cred this week and what we've done.
Yeah.
For me, I wanted to bring up initially that still working cosplay. Definitely trying to get things accomplished for that. Going a few different angles with it. I just today finished sewing a whole lot of making my own wefts from my wig. For those who don't know, wefts are basically the actual plugs of hair, like how they're attached to little strips and then sewn into a wig cap so that you have them all attached. It's not like every individual hair is attached to the cap by itself. They usually sew them into little strips of hair, and then those strips are then attached to the wig cap, and those strips are usually called wefts. And so I basically started trimming this wig I'm doing for the Scar cosplay from Full Metal Alchemist that I'm working on, where his cut has shaved side hair, which is very difficult to do with a wig from what I've been looking at. And so, we'll see what mine looks like. Right now, I initially just went in there and cut all the hair very short. The challenge when you do that is it starts to show the gaps in hair, because wigs are not usually made with full hair. They're like lines of it that overlap in such a way that you can't really see, if the hair is full, any of the gaps. Now that I cut it short, it's starting to show out. So the whole point of me doing it is I took the hair that I cut off and I turned around, used some tutorials on YouTube, and started initially. It was very painful and was not working in any good way. Finally got to a point where I think I got it down, where I can more often make a good weft than let it die in my hands and become a big sticky mess of wig hair. But using the sewing machine and taping the hair slightly down so that you can kind of have a gap to do it, just so it doesn't shift the hair. Running it through sewing machine several times to create like one line of thread to kind of hold it all together, and then folding it over, ironing it, pulling the tape off after sewing it all one more time, and then putting a little glue on the ends. I believe I've done well. So anyone who's following the Instagram on Predictably Ham, you would have seen some pictures I posted up there about the wefts I've been making. With that, I'm also, like I said, trying to do the wig itself. So next piece is I need to start sewing those wefts back into the wig to fill out the sides, and then go in there and with trimmers, I guess, shave the whole thing somewhat, to then try to go and paint it all to give it a darker sides than top look, and then continue to go in there and shape and trim the top into little spikes. All of that before this next weekend when Colorado Anime Fest starts. Since I'm going to try to get done for that, even though I was really planning to get it done for Anime Boston, which is, I believe, the following week, where I'll be out in Boston for the weekend to check out that convention, where I'm trying to have Scar ready for my friend Lee out there, who's going to be doing Edward from Full Metal Alchemist. So working on those. I also need to do the pants yet still, but that's just adding some fabric to it. I don't think I'm going to try to do the jacket at all, because I do not have time. Maybe in a future state. But get those all going. Also, I was starting to play with some, some makeup stuff that is, I keep forgetting what it's called, but it's supposed to help make scars look a little more in depth and kind of pull things in. And in doing so, because Scar's big thing is basically an X kind of or cross star kind of shaped scar across his face. And so using this, I'm hoping to make the scar look more realistic, because most people just paint a white X on their face, and it's, yes, that looks like the anime, but it's supposed to be an actual scar, and so I want it to look kind of ripped in and scar-like. And so I'm kind of play with this makeup to try to make that pull in. And also doing one where a lot of people do just white. I'm trying to do a little more lighter cream paste, so it looks more like it would be my skin that was scarred, versus just going with a deep white. So we'll see. I'm doing some color tests, things like that. So actually doing tests before the con, not just going in there and saying, yeah, it'll work, and going first time. So
Zenko's rubbing off.
I'm trying to be a better cosplayer, for better or worse, or whether it matters or not. Beyond that, 3D printing updates, just saying little bits. I printed out several things for Hyde for her Pain costume from Final Fantasy X2. Akko had found a model for the Pain sword, but due to where our 3D printers are and what state 3D printers tend to be in any given time, I was starting to do the printing for them, finish those up, have to do a little bit of finishing with it, but the model was actually really good in that it included a hole for a rod to go all the way through. And after watching, was it Valentine cosplay? It was a UK gentleman that I met at Dragon Con this last year. He had just done a sword himself that he modeled and printed up, and in doing so, he showed that to do a rod through the whole thing, where in the past I've used things like wooden dowels, he found carbon fiber dowels, rods, which you'd think, okay, who's making little carbon fiber rods? It's actually designed for like the high-end kite making and drone market, where people do these long, thick or carbon rods that people do as kite sticks because it's cheaper than normal kites. Or it's not cheaper than, it's lighter than you would do for a wooden dowel, but super strong. And so in doing so, it's like super awesome. So that, we actually put that in the sword and it held it really good. So looking forward to how Hyde's able to finish that out. Had also printed, done some little design work to print her a little fleur-de-lis for the chest, as well as trying to work on, and this is another attempt that didn't work out as well as I'd hoped this time, because it's a little challenging, but how to do fabric printed 3D prints. And so this is actually printed directly on the fabric, where you print a layer below and then let it sit, put the fabric over and then print through it. And it can work, but there's some challenges to doing so. And especially when we talked about the ability to finish them, because when you print it like that, it's a lot harder to then go in and like paint it without also affecting the fabric. So we have some ideas that I went in there and remodeled based on some discussion and some things that Akko threw in. That I'm hoping that once my printers are done doing their current jobs, try that out and see if I can get enough of these out for her to be able to finish it up for her costume next weekend as well. Because yay, if I'm not the leg when it comes to Voltron, because I support the group. That is my role in life. And so I will do all the things necessary to keep supporting and try to get everyone else's cosplays together as well. Also, I may, and it's been suggested a few times, because apparently I do okay in Tinkercad, that the software I'm using, the online Autodesk, so AutoCAD company's version of a quick modeling suite, I've basically got some affinity for. I've done well enough with in the few things I've built. And so I'm also looking at maybe modeling for our friend John Wasik, the author, a life-size version of his Sword of Dragons from his books.
Oh, that'd be
so that
cool.
He could have a promotional piece
Yes.
at his booth when he sets up tables and stuff. He could have a full-size Sword of Dragons hanging behind him. And such.
Very nice
So,
idea.
doing some things with that I'm trying to look forward to, and just we'll see. All that's kind of, I guess, a little geek tech related in some sense.
I wonder if you can sort of mix it with. Do you have any blacksmith friends? Somebody who can actually make
one of
the actual
discussions-
sword itself, then you can 3D print the holder. That would be cool.
Well, one of the discussions, this is something actually I was going to leave a little more to Akko to talk about with what Color Me Press and just Guildhall Galatea type things are doing, was talk about some other type things that we as a creative space can help artists do, authors, artists, things like that. And one of the options is, as John is looking towards ideas for how he might release a box set of his first three series in his first three books in the series for the Sword of Dragon. And he was looking at eventually possibly putting out a Kickstarter. And this is a spoiler for those who may follow John but haven't heard it from him yet. And then the idea is what would be good rewards to put out with a Kickstarter. And one of the suggestions I made was that, in Kickstarter, you always have at least the one kind of big reward for someone that has far more money than the average person that actually really does support a person's talent. And one of the options I talked about was trying to partner with a blacksmith and actually make a full-on metal Sword of Dragons life-size.
How cool would that be?
And that would be for that, the 5 potential top, silly level, whatever it would actually cost to get one of those things forged.
Probably a lot.
$100 a month or something crazy.
Well, not a month, but like a Kickstarter would be that first purchase that for this book set,
Oh, right.
all the rewards, but that top reward is also life-size sword, and maybe it's $1,000 for anybody who wants that. Because, who knows? I don't know what it costs to forge, a 7-foot steel sword or something
Maybe
like that.
more than 1,000.
And that's what I was saying. It could be higher. Just to
Well,
actually
it's
cover
also
the
the fact
cost
you get a
of the
certificate
reward.
of authenticity from John.
Yes.
Right? Because he
Well,
would
and his
think
signature
this
and
is a
everything and stuff,
legitimate
yeah.
Thing, yeah.
Yeah, things like that. So there's thoughts, as well as we're even optioning maybe even just a 3D printed version of it for a little lesser model versus the actual full-on metal one. Those are ideas. So as you were talking about a forge and a blacksmith, that was kind of one of the ideas that did float. And then just to finish off my piece real quick, I did play some more Pokemon Go. We did a Pokemon walk on Saturday with Zenko Hyde and my friend Gorvan and his wife out in Parker, which was all right. We did do a raid, but it was for a... Gosh, what it was against? We tried to do this bigger raid at the beginning, one of the legendaries that's out now. Was it Lugia? And failed that horribly. 6 of us was not near, or 5 of us was not near enough to get that one accomplished. And then went to... Let's see. Then we just did the walk, got a bunch of balls, stuff like that, and had breakfast, was really nice. And got a few little other things. I don't know if we got another big raid off that. But then last night, my little brother Earthweaver is in town for the weekend doing volleyball stuff, his normal job coaching. And in doing so, he was hanging out downtown, so I took a moment to go visit him. And went out and about, because downtown has Pokestops anywhere, I actually got involved with a real raid for once. Where we showed up outside of one of the areas, or the gyms that was showing up, because there are a lot of legendaries posting off 16th Street. And as we showed up there, it was like, oh, let's see if anyone shows up here. All of a sudden, we see a little group kind of hang outside. Oh, maybe. And that little group. As we started, I learned something in this process. Got in there, and there were like 7 or 8 of us. I was like, oh, this is like the biggest group I've been, or one of the biggest groups I've been a part of. 11 was my biggest prior. So I was like, this is cool. And then as we were getting ready to go, and we were all in there, and I think once you jump in the group, you get like 250 seconds before it starts or something. And so as it's going, counting down, we're all like ready. a bunch of other people showed up, and they're like, so, hey, we do this, and everyone's like, yeah, no, okay, everybody back out. I was like, wait, but I already used my raid pass. What am I going to do? And essentially what happens is you can quit out of that one, and the raid pass is still valid. And so you can jump back into another group that's forming before it actually starts the raid. And so, I mean, we were down to like 15, 20 seconds before the raid started, and we eventually all just quit out, jumped back in, and suddenly we were up to like 13 people. Like, now I'm feeling confident. We might actually beat this thing. Well, the challenge is that happened to us like 3 or 4 times as more people arrived for the raid. And so everyone kept jumping out back in. We had to communicate because my little brother and I had never having done this before, and it was actually Earthweaver's first raid. We were like, what? We can what? And so we were just kind of like listening in like, okay, I'll try this. Sure. Jump back. And eventually when we did the raid, there were 18 of us in the raid.
Nice.
And the nice thing is, we did actually beat it. We beat Lugia. I took out like 4 of my 6 Pokemon still because God, his ults were just painful. But afterwards, as is my norm, neither Earthweaver nor I were able to actually capture him. Because in the minigame afterwards, when you beat one of the raids, throwing all the Pokeballs and golden berries and stuff like that, and nothing. And I only missed, I think, 2 of like the 8 shots or whatever I had, where one he knocked away and one was short, but the rest I all hit, and it was just like, no dice. So still have not got a legendary in my collection. Grr. But still playing Pokemon Go, still enjoying it on occasion. It's fun to be out and about where there's a lot of stuff going on. And finally for me, I will say, I've been playing lately a lot of, well, not a lot. I've kind of just been getting into playing through Diablo 3.
Oh, nice.
I'm up to date. I'm hip. I'm like all the kids.
There's a subreddit that you might be interested on also on Reddit called Patient Gamers, and it's gamers who like quite often I see threads like, so I finally finished BioShock and stuff like that. But it's interesting because you see not only what they think of the game, but what they think of the game now, right? And it's not it's not
right.
You get reviews from 2018 about a game that was released in 2007 or whatever.
True. No, that's something where, and for me, so yeah, it's just like me still playing through Majora's Mask for the first time. Because, I'm up in the times, kids. I am right there with all the new stuff. But I am enjoying it for the most part. I mean, it's still not difficult. In fact, the way it was going through, and I got somewhat yanked through with Hyde helping me power level, because the real game in Diablo 3s these days is nothing more than rifts. And so I'm level 50-ish now, I think, as I've beat Diablo for the first time. Now, the nice thing is, because of when I bought it or something, or wherever it's at this point, I got the one that has all the DLC as well, so it went right into the follow-on story from there, and I was like, oh, cool. So I'm starting to play through that one a little bit.
Reaper of Souls, right?
So I believe so.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, that makes sense. Cool cutscene. I will give that. I mean, I've always said their animation's great. And so it's weird to be... Right. That I'm so far behind the curve of gamers that I don't even know if I can claim it. Like, am I a gamer? I don't know. I kind of play a game on occasion, just like, and I throw an ARAM or 2 in there. And so that's terrible. Unlike Akko over here, who's been playing like, ranked Overwatch for however long now. After you basically barely got into the game.
Yes.
So what have you been doing, Akko?
Well, so one of the things I've been doing is Overwatch ranked, which is interesting, kind of popping in now. I mean, one of the funny things is the teams, so for whatever reason, because all my teams died in the placements, which made me very, very sad, it threw me in a bronze. Now, the funny thing is that because of how I've been doing, they now regularly put me in silver teams, and I'm still able to do...
You're still ranked in bronze?
Yes.
Okay.
Because my teams are amusing. So I'm getting gold medals all over the place. It's just... Which is, it'll rank you based on, you got a bunch of kills. You're the leaderboard of the kills, so you're, gold medal there. You've been, highest objective time. You get gold medals there. So it's been interesting. It consistently throws me into a higher season rank games than I am. And so it's been interesting.
So does that work against your ability to promote?
I think so.
Interesting.
It makes it very, very interesting because, I mean, at least the games are more interesting than they used to be, because playing with pure bronze teams is an exercise in watching glue eating. That's, no.
Like actively choosing to join Team Instinct or something?
Good God, that's... Ugh. So that's one of the things I've been doing. The other is I've decided to, at the request of Hyde, I have decided to start a playthrough of Final Fantasy X, the remastered version, which I owned. Final Fantasy X was my first Final Fantasy game, so it's fun kind of going back and seeing it, playing it again, because she has actually never seen it while she's working on her Pain cosplay, so she's kind of watching the playthrough. That's also kind of fun. And so that's kind of it on the gaming side. As for the other stuff, we were hired recently by John to make a shirt of his book cover for his Sword of Dragons series. So we got to do that. It's really neat.
Cool.
And we're also doing some test prints on canvas to make like old style maps of like world maps and kinds of things for his worlds. Really cool stuff. Which kind of got us into the idea of one of the things that we can do for artists, potentially, is, with the Guildhall, create all kinds of interesting things for reward campaigns. Whether it be Kickstarter or Patreon or other things like that, we can have all the tools together in one place to make actually very, very interesting rewards when we all put our collective talents together. So that's just kind of
cool.
it in a nutshell.
No, and nice thing, speaking of that, is because equally as one of the things I've realized I do when it comes to cosplay is use technology anywhere I can. And so one of the other efforts I'm doing is looking at using the DTG printer to create the scars, the actual scar that or the tattoo on the arm. Sorry, not the scar, the tattoo on the arm that Scar has in Full Metal Alchemist, by using designs I found on the internet that I'm actually in the process of redoing and making prettier, higher resolution for the printer, is then using that to print on pantyhose, essentially, nylons for a lady, that I can wear over my arm as a sleeve versus actually having to either draw it on my arm itself with like permanent markers or things like that, or some ways people do it is through stenciling and using airbrush to get it on, which would be really nice and make it so that it looks like it's actual tattoo or just much nicer. But using a sleeve like this, it means I can just wear it real quick that day, take it off and pack it up and wear something else the next day, or bring it out whenever I need to. And so through a test print, which is not at all finalized, and I knew this was going to happen, but we actually got a pretty solid color representation on the pantyhose that I'm really happy with. And so I think it's a viable option that as soon as I do a little bit more on my end and figure out a better way to stretch it out to the size I need without it overstretching, I will actually get some really good results. So I'm excited for that as well.
Yeah, that's one of the other interesting things, because I think we haven't posted pictures of that test. But it's just kind of...
I think we'll wait till we get an actual good print of it out.
Finish the sleeve. Because that's one of the things we've been doing. We've been starting to post pictures of everything we've been printing, like on T-shirts and tests and things on social media, which is a bit of a humbling experience because Hyde is teaching me how to use those things to do it from a business perspective, and it's
them kids and them social media things.
Very humbling how much I don't know about the social media and posting things on Twitter and Instagram and.
Gotta use them hashtags.
Yes,
apparently.
It's like I said, it's an exercise in fear. Like I have no idea what I'm doing there. So it's like I said, it's been quite a humbling experience there, learning how to manage some sort of social media presence for something like, well, getting really cool art on T-shirts.
So that's been really cool to kind of see going on in the background and around what's been going on in this household. Definitely geek. I mean, it has taken over parts of my house as the cosplay side of it is gone, where I think Hyde has had complete ownership of the floor of the living room for the past 2 weeks. So it's a good thing I'm a good friend. But as we're all like tucked in the corner finishing our projects around it and such, but hopefully it means it'll end up in some good solid cosplay from the whole group, and especially as we're supporting Zenko doing the continuation of the entire Tales of Zestiria cosplay group efforts. And she's been still hand embroidering, although getting close, I hope, to finishing that project.
Hopefully. She's getting there. I think she's working on the front.
Things like that. Also this week, I know that we have friends who are out in Kansas City right now celebrating NakaCon, which is something I absolutely wanted to do, but due to both the priorities of trying to get costumes done and generally realizing I can't go to every con I want to go to in a year because money and time off work, have sacrificed both A-Kon this year and NakaCon in order for us to instead go to the Great White North and go to Anime North again, which will be my 4th year in a row go into this Anime North to go visit the lovely Miss Copy, and go into a large cosplay group, which should be a ton of fun as we do that one. So kind of managing and bouncing around things to get that all to work.
That'll be pretty fun.
So it should be cool.
We also got this coming week, so next week, we had several panels approved that we can give at a local convention. So if anyone's interested in Colorado Anime Fest, Zenko and I will be presenting 2 different panels there. And all 3 of us will be presenting a Level Me Up panel, which is about turning people's passions into businesses.
Cool.
So yes, come out to Colorado Anime Fest and see us.
I think these kind of cons are going to be great for. I know the first one that you mentioned isn't actually directly related to the t-shirt business, but I think that second one absolutely could be good for like kickstarting this business of yours, because it gets people who are not in your direct community to see it more. You know?
Yes.
Yes.
This is very good.
No, it's a great thing to kind of throw out there, and really what we're presenting as all of these is to expand people's thoughts on what's possible. You know, the realm possible, because a lot of people are just kind of looking at being creative in their own little ways, and they see what's on store shelves, and they kind of see what other people are doing. We're trying to show other means that they can expand, kind of where they could get their name out, their world, things like that, just to see, hey, there's more you could do. How about this? Wouldn't you like it? And so we'll see what happens, but so far the response has been very positive. You know, just for having Color Me Impressed acquire for the Guildhall to get hold of the printer and for Color Me Impressed to start building the business of what they can do with it and throwing it out to people, there's already been a surprising amount of response to what people want for low-run t-shirts, things like that, made that can have high-quality color on it without having to go to some of the bigger companies and not be cost-effective, where you'd have to order several hundred before it makes sense. Here you can order 2, 3, 5, 10, and it's all fine, and it works within the model. So,
and that's what we love about it. It's a really cool technology that we realized there's not a whole lot in Denver, excuse me, let alone other places. And one of the other things that I'm in the process of writing a short article for LinkedIn, actually, is on some of those sites that you'd upload your art to do to print T-shirts or sell T-shirts for you.
The legal
about
side.
their legal terms of service and
Again,
the kinds of rights that you give up when you submit to some of those online agencies or online T-shirt production services. It's a really interesting study, which is partly why I was looking up on copyright and licensing and things. But then I go and read their terms of service, and they're kind of terrible.
So yeah.
Can't say I'm entirely surprised, to be honest.
No, but it's just like how on Facebook, you know, the number one social media platform out there that most people are part of, how anything you upload to their site as a photo or something like that, you basically give up all rights to. Not give up to, but they can take and use however they want to.
Yep. So the fancy legalese is they take a license to your work to use however they please, which is perpetual, royalty-free, and irrevocable, which is another common theme you'll see. Basically, they can use it forever, they can use it for whatever they want, and they don't have to pay you a cent.
Exactly.
And you can't tell them no.
So be aware. This is why, and now I have switched because of what fans have asked for, but that's why when I was posting my photos for costumes and things like that I'd done with people, I basically was posting them all to Flickr, because Flickr, you maintain your rights, but everybody wants it on Facebook, and so I basically said, all right, we're all going to give up our rights for that for the convenience, so here you go. Because people refuse to get Yahoo accounts to be able to use Flickr and keep the rights to your own property.
Yep.
I'm sorry. I mean, and so I go back and forth on that. I would love to only post on Flickr, but people like to tag and post and do things, so they hated Flickr. And
That's the thing. If you do like a wedding shoot or anything like that, as a
those I won't post on Facebook. Heck no. My normal page shoots, nope. Does not happen.
Well, that's the thing. I've done it before where I said to them, look, like, if we put it on Facebook, we don't have the rights to it anymore. And they're like, that's fine. I want to put it there because there's no point in, at least
keeping
for the people I've spoken to, they say there's no point in having these photos if they can't share them with their friends. And I'm like, all right, fine.
It's for me, a lot of, and this is a lot of what we're doing with the panels and stuff that we start doing. We're not telling people, come do it this way, but we are giving information. So a lot of what both Zenko Akko does and what we're doing with Level Me Up and things like that is more to just, there's time. It was time to switch over according to my background music. As I got the technology news and more part there. But yeah, it's basically set to say that we're trying to give people information to make better decisions and to know what's really happening. And so that's one of the big ones there.
That's the big thing, because a lot of it is awareness. And, that's where... when I was talking about a little bit earlier about the whole point of lawyers, it's really to inform people. That's when they're at their best. And so just to have people aware of what they're giving up, what they're signing away, what it really means, when it says, oh, you give a perpetual license, royalty free, blah blah blah, it means you're giving up your stuff. And if people still want to do it after knowing what it is, what it is they're giving up, sure, okay. That's their decision. But if they're doing it out of pure ignorance, well, some people may not actually realize that they didn't want to give that up, or exactly what they're doing. So it's just kind of to dispel some of that lack of understanding, and that's kind of what at least a lot of our goals are through the Guildhall, through Level
everything
Me Up.
We're doing, we believe in truth. We believe there is truth, and that people should understand it. And it's fine to research on your own, but please don't walk away from truths because it's more comfortable. We will have those hard discussions.
Speaking of all this copyright stuff, I've been getting so mad because I keep finding my photography being stolen all around the internet constantly.
That'll happen.
I've had like at least a few dozen of times I've found my stuff. So occasionally I used to do it myself, and I now have a script that'll do it for me randomly. But basically, it goes through some of my more
highly
viewed
rated
photos that I have up, and it'll do a Google search for them and send me a report of where it finds them. And one of the worst ones actually was this building that we have on campus here at the university. I took a picture of it maybe like 6 years ago. One of the castles here. One of the castles, and and that photo was found on this Russian university website, because they had a link with our university, like they were trying to send people to our uni through some kind of link.
Okay,
and I was like, what the hell? Why are they using my photo? It didn't reference me anywhere. It was definitely private copyright. I didn't allow them to have any use, but because it's Russia, I sent them an email. They didn't respond. And I'm like, well, that's pretty much me exhausted.
Yeah, it's like trying to fight copyright in China. Good luck.
Yeah, it's not much I can do.
Well, and it's something just to be aware of in general. That's why it makes sense that so many sites, especially like ones that are doing selling of anything, they'll watermark over the entire picture with the actual, website kind of thing or some kind of the stuff with the copyright. I mean, it's why people argue back and forth, but it's why most of my photos I take that are legit photos, I have my little DHP in the corner there for Death's House Productions, because that's me, and I did the work, and I shot it, so deal with it. And we talked about, like, the photography thing, right? When it comes to copyrighted photography, if I take the photo, it's mine.
Yes.
I own it, regardless of what the subject matter of the photo is. And that's something that pisses off a lot of artists and a lot of cosplay-type people, but it's truth. And so, thankfully, most cosplayers who've wanted to use my photos for their portfolio have asked me, and I've been very generous of just saying, yep, do whatever you want with it, you want to make money, go. If someone asks me, I'll probably give you all rights to it, and I don't care. Because I'm not trying to monetize it past the fact that if you had paid me for a shoot or something. And now I always say I retain rights to do with something this in the future, but in the meantime, if you want to go make money off it, go have fun. But it is very interesting getting kind of those little tweaks on what it means, and especially with photography, as we are on things like Guru Shots and stuff like that, which is fun. It's knowing what the licensing and stuff happens around it and where your rights go, which is
absolutely
really interesting, and people should be more aware. It's just, in general, it's like we talk about anything, even just with your browsing rights and stuff and your access to ISPs and stuff like that. We are advocates for personal rights. We really are. Companies are not people. Governments are not people. I believe in people's rights, not big entities. And so you'll always hear me bring up stories like that.
That's one of the big things that, I have a small module in our Level Me Up talk on copyright, because that seems to be something that's not well understood in the cosplay community.
Oh, no.
How, yes, a fan art is copyright infringement. No, you do not have copyright in that. And so those are, often very surprising. Yes, if you make a kind of fan art, that you can't really protect it, which is kind of the funny thing that surprises people, and how cosplay itself is in a little bit of a gray area. And even though they kind of turn a blind eye, doesn't mean it's not copyright infringement. And so just kind of interesting things there that, people don't quite understand, that no, you don't need to do this silly thing of mailing it to yourself in the post office, or
oh gosh,
the fact that you made an original work, the second it's fixed, it's copyrighted. Unless you register it with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office or the Copyright Office, you don't really get monetary damages, and you got to go under your state. But all kinds of stuff like that people don't really know.
Yeah, we have found there's a lot of assumption around creative spaces and people and objects and things. When you create stuff, people just assume a lot, and a lot of times it's very wrong. And so we're trying to dispel some of that ignorance. I mean, it kind of goes with one of those things we have just about the world about, keeping people informed. Oh, just speaking of which, I say keep people informed, and this is a case where it's not, but what could be done with it if not? I saw what was to me a very entertaining suggestion for a reality TV show. And if you fall into this ilk and get offended by this, honestly, I don't care. But basically, it was one that said, wouldn't it be entertaining to take a group of flat earthers and, much like in an Amazing Race type of reality show, follow them as they try to find the edge of the earth. And actually let them start by going on maps and doing some whatever research they want to kind of say where the best likelihood of the edge of the earth would be, so we could take them there and let them try to explain what it is they're finding and how about the exploration process themselves, what they learn. And I think that might be surprisingly entertaining. You might have to get through a lot of ignorance at the beginning, but...
Call it Race to the Edge.
When you start doing things like using
like
magnetic fields for a compass and then realizing that requires it to be a globe.
Well, again, remember, science is not on their side. They don't use science for this. It's all their belief, and we know how scary and terrible beliefs can be. But yes, it's something where when they get into... it would just be fun to watch them experience it for themselves to try to say whether the Earth is still flat, according to them. And so it was what I saw as a joke that I actually took and kind of said, oh, I think I'd watch that. I actually think I would.
Absolutely.
And Kuro in the IRC says, I'd love to have a chat about copyright on 3D models / printing.
It's going to be the next big thing, isn't it?
Well, it's one that I've teased about a little bit, and for my opinion, the part of it is good luck stopping it ever, no matter what legally comes about, because the fact that I can create an image of an object, or I can create a 3D visualization of some kind of thing that occurred in real space, how do you stop that? How do you stop me from just printing something that's been designed, that's been given out as a model freely, or things that I've done myself and things like that? I mean, I just don't see it. I don't know how you...
The question is, could you stop somebody doing it without the 3D printer? So say you wanted to make a little replica of Sonic the Hedgehog, say, and you made it yourself out of plastic, and it's your artistic representation, you're not making money off it, you're just making it in your own home.
So
that's
in that case,
fine, right? There's
in that case, there's nothing that I know legally a person could ever stop you from doing.
I mean, they could try, because technically it is still infringement. It's
is it infringement just to create something yourself, or is it infringement to sell a thing that you've created?
It's a sliding scale, and there's a bunch of random factors. So if it ever came to like an actual issue, there's kind of they would look into, okay, is it commercial, is it not? Just because it's not commercial, just because you're not selling it, doesn't mean it's not infringement. But at the same time, it might affect the damages. If it's federally registered, well, you're sunk. And that's where Disney, which is the evil empire,
they will lawyer up quick on you constantly. They already have. They're just looking for you.
They have an entire firm of people who are constantly on the lookout for this. And there's a rumor that Disney offers a bounty for infringements. Rumor. I haven't seen it confirmed, but Disney is very, very much the evil empire when it comes to copyright. They are pretty evil. That's the reason why Mickey Mouse still isn't in the public domain, because they got some laws changed to protect Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
Which is truly part of the death of what is it? Public knowledge. Yeah, and creative thought. Is Disney has done more to damage public thought than almost any other company out there, because it goes back to the things of what it was supposed to be about. All copyright patent laws were supposed to allow companies to have some reasonable amount of time to make money off things. And then after that, it's everybody in the world should be able to take advantage of it, use it how they want, because it should become part of the public knowledge and public think.
Absolutely.
That's the original intent. We've talked about on the show before. Everyone should actually fight for that and say companies are not people.
So, and the interesting thing, I mean, just kind of looking at the chat a little bit. So the funny thing is, you can't copyright the idea of a gun. That specific gun, sure. But, if you modeled it yourself, just because it's influenced, so influences get funny, but, again, it's just a matter of, all right, if it's directly infringing, I mean, would you be able to fight that out in court? Who knows? I mean, the question would require them to find it and think it's a problem and then sue you. But if you made it yourself, well, that's better than just, taking their 3D model
and did it, yeah.
and doing it. So that's
where it gets another piece, because if through the mechanisms out there's another piece that, like with Thingiverse, like with Yegi and stuff, there's things where you can find 3D models. If you find and happen upon a 3D model that exists that happens to be really gorgeous and looks exactly what you want, you print it. The ability or someone to track and actually come after anyone for that is really tough.
Yeah.
Where I think the concern starts to get up higher is when, or you start to make notice, is when you start making money off of other people's work. That's where people start to take notice and take offense.
Also, it's funny. So on Thingiverse, make sure you check out the license that people have uploaded under.
Everyone has their own.
Which is funny because trace it back. If they're already borrowing from people's models to make their model, check the original license, because it may be, your later user may have restricted it. They may not have been authorized to restrict the license.
That's an interesting one, because we have found several examples where the original person who created the model said, do with as you please, but it has to remain Creative or Commons, basically open to anybody to use and do something with. And then someone later makes a version that's slightly better, tweaked or whatever, and they say, nope, this is for commercial purposes only for me to do. You have to pay me for it. And if you actually look at the original license holder, they'll be like, no, that was, you stole from me, and therefore anything you do has to inherit the same thing of being Creative Commons. Mm-hmm. And you can't actually restrict it.
Big problem in programming, right? Because there's so many libraries out there that you like. So say you're trying to do something in a program, and say you want to. So we're very lucky because there's a lot of open source, really easily accessible libraries out there. Like one such accessible library is the Apache Commons library for Java. Basically, the guys who made Java have a whole bunch of libraries inside Java that let you do a lot of basic stuff, like reading files, writing files and stuff. But there's certain things that you don't have. For example, accessing Excel spreadsheets. And to do that, you actually need to use an external library called the Apache Commons, which is owned by Amazon technically, but they have it opened to everybody, and everybody can use it, etc. So everybody just sort of uses it, right? It's fine. If you want to access an Excel document, you use the Apache Commons stuff, and that's just the standard, really. It's what you do. But say, for example, you have a weird data file. I don't know, like say you're working on a program that uses Photoshop files, and you find this plugin that says, "Oh, it will let you access Photoshop files, no problem. Download it here," and you don't read the license information. I imagine there's a lot. And this is me speaking, not necessarily as somebody who knows a lot about this. I don't want to claim any kind of authority on this, other than the fact that I am a programmer. Nothing to do with working in a university or anything like that. But I imagine there are a lot of pieces of software out there that use simple libraries like that without even bothering to check the licenses.
Oh gosh, because nobody reads most licensing because it's too hard, it's too long. It's just like when we talked about, when you install software and it asks you to read the entire terms of service, right? Who does that? It's so and they hide legalese in there.
If your boss says to you, "Look, I want to get this extra feature where I can read these files or something within the next week. Can you do that?" And you think to yourself, "Oh, I did that in my last job or something. No problem.
Oh, no.
2 minutes. Yeah, no problem." And even if that employee looks and goes, "Oh, it's got a license agreement that we haven't agreed to or whatever. We need to get the lawyers into this. It'll take at least a few months." Nobody's going to do that. No software team, no programmer, no designer, no team lead would stand up and say, "Oh, well, we got to put everything on hold because we need to write this library from scratch ourselves, or we need to get this other company on board." But that's not going to happen. We'll just use
that. That goes back to one of the big things it talks about. My older brother was actually great about this. I'd love to get him on a conversation about coding and the rights behind code out there, because in most cases, structures of code, functions, the way things work should be free and open domain to everyone in the world, because nobody goes back and rewrites the code for how to open a GIF, right? Or rewrites the code for how to browse a file on a certain operating system. It's all out there, and people just reuse and copy code constantly, and really it comes into how do you put it all together to do something new or what's needed at this moment. And
if everybody had an incredibly slippery slope, though, because let's make it more simplistic for people to understand, right? If you have a painting, at what point of you putting random brushstrokes onto the painting does it become the same painting of somebody else's, right? If you are drawing a painting and you've got maybe some hair on the screen, on the canvas, right? People will say that's your work. That's absolutely fine. That's yours. But if you paint it out and it becomes Mona Lisa, you've now it's not copyright because it's so old, right? But you've now infringed on somebody else's idea, right? You've taken somebody else's idea, and nobody will credit you as it being yours because, as far as they're concerned, you stole that idea, that creative idea. But at what point is it the first brushstroke? Is that the copyright where it begins, or is it the final brushstroke, or is it more likely is it somewhere in between, right? And it's the same with programming. If they say that this whole function, this whole piece of software is copyright, does that mean the internal workings are fine and it's just the graphical user interface that's copyright, or is it the opposite, or is it both, or is it a weird amalgamation of the both? And where's the sliding scale? And it's defining that is the incredibly difficult thing.
No, there's so much to be said for it. I don't know. But yeah, that's what we're seeing, where when does it cross what line? And no, copyright's become such a mess. It was so much easier when they realized it was there just to give people the chance to do something with their ideas, and then after that to go away and let the world actually, use whatever it is you're doing. I wish
it was a chance
people would remember that.
Ideas. Yeah, I mean, it's still important. I think one day if we live in a utopia where we don't care about the economy, etc., and everybody's just happy and then we'll have equal pay or whatever, right? Or we don't have any pay at all, we just have resources that are available. At that point, people will be completely happy to just have no copyright and we just give people credit because it's not worth anything otherwise, right? But right now, we're in a place where an idea can be worth millions, billions. Look at Bill Gates, right? Look at Steve Jobs. Look at the ideas they've had and complete.
Ideas they've had are ideas they basically own from people under them that they created and took ownership of.
Well, that's part of copyright. It's under the company name. If you made it in company time, then it's yours, right? So.
Well, depending on which ones you look at, but yeah, you have to understand those things too. Yeesh.
What was it? There was a quote of Steve Jobs I think it was over a fight with Microsoft. The Microsoft was stealing their stuff, and Bill Gates responded. It was a long time ago. He said that, well, think of it like this. It's like, we both went to break into, I went to break into the office of a neighbor called Xerox and found the TV already stolen. That it's...
Yep.
Apple got there first, but it doesn't mean, that both of them weren't stealing stuff.
Yeah, it's so, There's a lot out there. It is interesting. But that's why these are actually kind of fun conversations. Now, I did want to look. Let's see. I'm going to check just to see as we're officially in the Geekoscope part, and we are basically talking news and such. If there's new news to be discussed, one that's more for people here in the United States, but just to bring up in general, is that one of the classic. This is just talking about times we're in today. Stores that we grew up with here in the States is going away. And that store is Toys R Us.
Here.
Oh, do you guys have
here too?
You have them as well?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize it was cross-spawn kind of thing. But Toys R Us, one of the biggest toy stores in the world, is shutting down and has gone bankrupt. And so one of the articles I caught that's just talking about this actually came from Lifehacker. But it says, we hate to interrupt your mourning of the demise of Toys R Us and deep concern over whether Jeffrey will ever be back on his feet, but there is something you need to do. Spend your gift cards now.
That's true.
It says the toy store chain announced that we'll honor gift cards for the next 30 days. And that includes Baby R Us gift cards. Oh, I didn't even think about Babies R Us.
Yep.
Ooh, yikes. Because that store I've actually purchased from for friends. Still holding on to a $50 gift card that Aunt Poppy gave you your kid for Christmas in 2009. Go find it. Buy something at one of the hundreds of stores closing sales happening right now across the country. And apparently store fixtures are for sale too.
Yes, they're liquidating everything.
Wow. So this is a true, they are gone.
They're gone.
They're done. So part of bringing this up as an article was mostly just kind of something that we talked about internally amongst us a little bit, is the demise of traditional retail space.
Yep.
And essentially we're in a world now where distribution has been regulated now to, so many people are used to shopping and are comfortable with it online, that you don't need a big box store in many cases. And it's one of those things that we've kind of hinted at before, gotten around, but when was the last time you went to a big box store specifically to go find and buy something that day? In most cases, it seems like you either go to kind of get hands and looks on feel, but you'll most likely still go home and find it online to see what price you can get cheaper. Yep. Something like that. But this is just another sign of one where I was kind of surprised, because toys is one of those things that, for me, the reason I can understand this is the last time I tried to go to Toys R Us for Christmas and do shopping for my nephews and nieces, I did so and then came out of it like, cool, I found the toys, and then going to ship them was so expensive and painful that I basically realized I had left like one of my nephews, I hadn't done his yet. I turned around, bought his on Amazon Prime, had it shipped directly to it, pre-wrapped with a gift thing on it, and it cost me half as much as almost any of the other shipping out there. And I mean, even just on the gift itself. So I realized for distance gifts, I'm never shipping it myself. It's dumb. Just use one of the services that already has and ship direct.
And that's the sad reality. These big box retailers are dying And it's kind of interesting. Toys R Us, they said that last year they made half of the revenue they were expecting to make. I think it was they were expecting to make $600 million. They made 300, which is catastrophic failure.
That's significant.
There's no way to dig out of that hole, which is why they're liquidating everything. And of course, the jobs that go along with it, not great jobs, but jobs
still
nonetheless.
Jobs, and still ones that can be counted throughout the world where they were at.
You have to remember, Toys R Us is not just a bunch of people in the stores, right? It's all the people in the back end, all the managers, all the people who work in the customer support, etc. The ones who do the infrastructure stuff. Some of those are going to be some well-paying jobs. I imagine there'll be some lawyers and stuff there as well, right? Like they'll have like a whole team of everything there. Catering staff, maybe even. Who knows?
Yeah.
So, it is one of those where it is sad to see, but at the same time, it's, I think, an absolute sign of the times.
Yep.
That we are moving to a society where big box stores and regular retail space is going to become a thing of the past. And it's if we keep looking for like Guildhall Galatea space and stuff is okay, because we're looking for space to actually give people services and things they can go and utilize with their own hands versus waiting for something just to, put it on a shelf and let them buy it.
Right.
And so it's a different market that we're looking at. But cool. No, I wanted to bring that up because that is something poignant and happening and a time limit if you're ever going to use those things. So by all means, if you happen to have a gift card for them, check it out. But Ken, it's time for us to end the show. Would you be so kind?
Absolutely. You are listening to ShowX on VTWReactions.com. Thank you very much for tuning in. It's much appreciated. We do appreciate your support. Speaking of support, you can do so in many different ways and forms and shapes and sizes. You can help us by following on twitter.com/VTWShowX, twitter.com/DocDead, and twitter.com/GoHex for the show, for Mr. Wayne, and for myself. You can check us out on Facebook by searching for ShowX there and follow us there. Twitch.tv/VTWShowX, I believe. Check us out on YouTube by searching for Versus the World Productions there. You should be able to find us. You can also check us out by sending in emails to showx@VTWProductions.com. We read out our emails during the Geek Cred section, so send in what you've been up to in your terms of geekery. Stories and such, especially funny ones, are particularly welcome. You can also support us monetarily through patreon.com/showx, where you can give a minimum of $1 per month. Think of that, $1. That's nothing. And it's much appreciated if you do so. Otherwise, check us out in all the different places around the interwebs. Is there anything else we'd like to give a shout out to for our guest here?
As always, we want you to check out Color Me Impressed. It's Color Me Impressed Fashion. Right?
Color Me Impressed Fashion, so it's CMI Fashion Printing on Facebook.
Yes.
And Twitter, it's @CMI Printing. And I forget the Instagram. I'm still learning this.
Again, it's that social media nonsense. And hey, remember, kids, hashtags were originally pounds, and they become hash because they have coding and stuff like that.
No, they're hash because Britain is superior, that's why.
No, it's not superior. You guys just keep screwing up language for everyone else. Anyways, it is time for us to go, so catch us again next week, everybody. I will or will not be here, depending on how the con's going, was whether I broadcast and take the remote rig or depending on where we're at, but there will be a show, so check that out, and we look for you for that one. All right, guys, with that, it's time for us to get out of here, so you have a good one, and we will catch you next week. Bye, everybody!
Goodbye. See you next zombie.